Carpentry is the backbone for all trades. When you come in to start your unit, the totes are all organized by the different trades. And for carpentry, you have a special bucket where there's tool pouches, and then you've got a tote that's got hammers and nails and screws and all the different tools. Notice that it's nicely organized. This is the way I like to see it put back at the end of the day. That way leaders have it nice and organized. I recommend that you set up a table outside under cover, and you should have your roughly 3 cordless drills, at least 5 tool pouches, maybe 6 or 7. All your materials over to the right hand side. This is you'll be building right underneath the structure. So first of all, grab a couple of the plates, top plates and bottom plates, and you're going to lay those out, and they're laid out every 16 inches. Now make sure that you do a little bit of sketching on a piece of paper, because you have to allow for 16-inch on centers, and you can ask myself on the layout there. So sketch it out on a piece of paper and then run it by me. So 16 inches on center. So you first of all lay it out, and then you use a framing square, and it's 1.5 inches, so that's the equivalent to a stud. So notice that the spacing there, the line where I marked it would be on one side, and the other side would be the other half of the stud, and you just mark an X. And I'm doing both the top and bottom plates at the same time. This way that you know that your studs are going to be set up together. You don't want to do this individually. And let's use imperial units. That'll be inches and feet, not metric. And we are using a framing square at this point. You should have a nice sharp pencil for each student. And I'd like you to go through this process with the students on how to lay out the studs so that they understand the spacing. The concepts are big picture concepts, so that they know what really goes on as a carpenter. They don't just randomly put pieces of wood anywhere. They're strategically placed. And this is similar to, as I said, for other trades, because once you put drywall over top of all these studs, the electrician, the plumber, and anybody doing a renovation needs to know where those studs are located. So that's why we have codes and standards. Make sure that each one of your studs is the same length. So that's why sometimes you have to go through the pile and find out the ones that are the same length. It could be cut a little bit differently. That'll make everything go together nicely. And so you've laid it out for the students. It's the same as you do with the students. Teach them how to stand on the studs to keep it in one place. And if you have the nails on a slight angle down, it's easier to nail. And they'd put 2 nails in each stud through the top plate and 2 through the bottom plate. And so students get a chance. Each student should nail 1 stud in. There's at least 5 there. And once you have students working on that, I'd also recommend that you show them how to use a cordless drill for selecting a drill, and then also changing it over and putting in a drill bit driver. Because we're going to actually install some blocking on an existing wall. So when you first come in, what you do is you'd set up these template walls out on the parking lot, so that the walls that the kids build will be attached to these. So they're actually building a bit of a structure. So these will already be in place. So you'll show the students how to measure, and you can give each student a different measurement so that their blocking is in a different location. They use what's called a speed square. They mark off so that it's going to be at the same heights for the blocking. And sometimes the blocking doesn't quite fit, so you have to just give it a little tap to move it around, but you should pre-check this so that your blocking is all ready to go for your students. The idea is that you want them not to be struggling with things. And I want each student to be able to go through the drill index, that's the box of drill bits, to select the right drill bit so that the screws will be, the holes will be pre-drilled in the studs, so that makes it easier to drive the screws. So they need to put in a drill bit, and then once they drill 2 holes on each side of their studs, and it's good using the speed square so that they can actually have things lined up. Installing the blocking ensures that the students learn how to actually do a little bit of a renovation. Sometimes you have to actually add things. So they pre-drill each hole, then they take the drill bit out, and then they put in a drill driver, which would be for Robertson. Robertson's the square head, and give them a couple of 2.5-inch screws, and they can fit their blocking in. And you can be working with the students over on the framing section at the same time, so they're not all doing blocking and all doing framing. You actually spread them out a little bit so that they've all got something to do. You want to keep them all active for the whole time. And so you just have them drive the screws in, and make sure they don't drive them too far, so they might teach them how to use the ratcheting mechanism on the cordless drill. And the students will install it. Now remember, at the end of the day, you have to take this blocking out, and you'll disassemble the 2 wall units that you make. We leave the 2 templated wall units so that you've always got something to attach to. The idea is to keep the kids busy, so you need to pace yourself and them so that they are always learning and engaged and having fun. That's the key things.